So we are ready to go with our webinar on how to capture the voice of the employee. Thank you very much to everyone that's joining us there today. What we want to talk about today is why organizations are thrashing their intranets. That's one of the aspects of this that is a really important factor in capturing the voice of the employee, is switching over to a much more engaged communication model. How to capture people analytics in one place, so rather than having to go across to multiple different sources to actually find reliable people analytics. And while real-time surveys kick ass in HR, they're just by far the most interesting thing that's happening right now, and we're seeing an incredible volume of uptake on those. My name is David Kenny. I am the sales guy at Talivest, and I'm based here in Dublin. I've worked in a number of different roles around the world in HR and in sales, and this is an area that really matters to me, and I have a lot of history and passion around them. I'd also like to introduce you to my colleague, Niamh. Niamh is the incredible head of customer here at Talivest, and I will ask her to introduce herself.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. So I'm Niamh, working here at Talivest as head of customer engagement and communications. My background is in internal comms. I've worked in PwC and PayPal, and I suppose I would have always worked with HR professionals, collaborating very closely on things like annual engagement surveys, various different HR initiatives and so on. So this is also an area I feel very passionately about, particularly because I know it's hard to find those tools that really help you capture the voice of the employee, which is why we're here today.
Absolutely. And from having spoken to an awful lot of people that are on the webinar today, there are a lot of challenges happening in your organizations, and people are leaving, others are disengaged, and we don't really know how to fix it in HR. There's a big challenge there. Today we're going to share with you how you can actually take a really proven and intuitive approach to address these issues. And that's exactly what we hope you will leave the webinar with today, with a clear understanding of that.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. And actually, to do that, we'd like to introduce you to someone. So this is Sarah, and Sarah is actually kind of a mix of a lot of the different customers we've come across throughout our time here. And what she is she's a HR director at a company called WorkTalk. And Sarah, I think if there's any HR directors on the call today, such a busy job. It's really, really, I suppose, firefighting, coming up with people strategy and so on. And what Sarah's finding is that it's actually extremely hard to get data, number one, and to be able to present a business case to, the C-suite, to talk about engagement, to talk about whether it's going up or down. And in addition to that, it's that kind of way where Sarah just can't actually manage to get around to putting together a people strategy based on data. Number one, because she doesn't have any, and secondly, because she's just firefighting all the time. So what we'd like to show you today is some of those challenges that Sarah actually faces, and then how we can solve them with Talivest.
Yeah, exactly. And so HR is facing huge global workforce challenges, with the level of employment, in Ireland, it has reached its highest level ever. And it's been called out in the Gartner Future Work Survey that one of the things that really needs to happen here is that it's critical that HR leaders actually start making changes to their organizations. So the Sarahs of the world are very much focused on making the business better, on driving achievement, driving performance, but it's becoming increasingly difficult to do that without the ability to rapidly respond and anticipate what's happening in their workforce.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, if we go into these top three issues, so this first one here, and Dave, you're wondering why I have a sock on the slides.
I know you're going to tell us.
So I suppose I've been obsessed with Marie Kondo for the last month, and I've just moved house, so I have had a chance to organize my sock drawer and fold the socks.
Only you.
So major nerd alert. So Marie Kondo aside, the reason we have a sock here on this slide is, we just want to talk about how difficult strategic workforce planning is. You might start off with great intentions, trying to find that top talent seems like it can be achievable, but actually it's really hard to find. And there's so many reasons that this is happening. I mean, the first one is you've really low unemployment in Ireland. So we have the pick of the bunch. I'd say anyone here, if you want to go out and get a new job, you're going to have opportunities, and that's a fact. And that's what your employees are facing. They're getting LinkedIn requests, they're actually getting hammered by your competition, basically trying to poach them. And so that's the first point. I mean, the second point then is also you have this sort of housing crisis in Ireland that's fueling this whole issue around strategic workforce planning and trying to get the right people into your workplace.
And then so it's big, and it seems insurmountable. Like, you just bought a new house, so we were all really fresh. We lived through that experience where you were talking about how challenging it was. And so when you're actually going out there and trying to attract people to come and work somewhere like Dublin, it has to be the job of a lifetime in order for them to actually go through what is a really, really taxing, challenging environment. And that's not to say people aren't going to do it. Of course they are. But they're only going to do it if they actually feel that that job is going to give them something way more than, than the 30% salary increase that they might need in order to actually be able to function and live in an expensive city like Dublin. There's no question.
Absolutely, Dave. Yeah. And I mean, another thing that we have seen that's a challenge that Gartner has called out as well, we've given it our own name, which is the soul-sucking vampires. And these are the people in your organization. They might have been you, maybe you are one, So these are the people that are actually costing you time and money just by staying in your organization because they're not engaged. So we found another stat from Gartner that, 2/3 of the people in your workplace are planning on leaving.
Yeah.
So only 1/3 are actively engaged.
And they're absolutely killing your business. So it's even just an issue of not just getting new people to replace those folks, but also how do you anticipate and address and identify the folks in the organization that are actively disengaged or engaging in malicious compliance. And it's just incredible to think the damage that those people do. So that Gartner, it's a Gartner survey. It's 2/3 of people in the average organization are actually looking to leave their jobs. So what's happening there? They're not going the extra mile. They're not in it to win it, or whatever metaphor you want to use to describe high performance. Basically, they're really not motivated at all. They are the soul-sucking vampires. They are literally just sucking the value and sucking the enthusiasm and energy out of your business. They're making everyone miserable. They're hating on your customers. If I'm phoning into a call center, or if I'm asking for a proposal, or even engaging at a very high level, when I encounter people like that, it is basically killing me. They're the kryptonite to your vision and to your bottom line. And they're just absolutely destroying your business. And so one of the things that I think would be kind of fun to do is, we love this graphic that's in front of you right now, which is beware the soul-sucking vampire. So I think we will send a t-shirt to a person that sends in their best anonymized soul-sucking vampire story. We will send you the Talivest beware of the soul-sucking vampires officially approved t-shirt that you can wear, which is to help you identify all the soul-sucking vampires in your organization.
Signed by Dave. We'll get you
signed by Dave. We'll sign it. Yeah, we will. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I mean, I think another thing here about this is that there is this culture, a little bit of blame. So and I mean, it may be even on this slide is kind of evident. It's like there is this kind of blame out there that, it's your fault. You're not actually appreciating the free fruit we give you. We do all these things. You've got a gym, you've got Pilates. Like, why are you not appreciating what we're giving you? We're actively giving you stuff, and you're still coming into work really negative, and you're giving us poor scores on surveys. But what we're saying is, that needs to flip. So that attitude needs to change. If you're not going to listen to your employees, you're not going to actually know how to engage them. So that's the first point as well, is that it's really, really important for you to now go and use the tools that can help you listen to your employees.
And it's pretty bad when you think about it, though, because like, Dave, if you're working in a big company and you're just getting communication coming down from the top directed towards you, I mean, that's incredibly depressing to think that I'm just expected to listen. No one listens to me. And it's very, very disenfranchising for employees. There's no question. And you know what? You can get as exotic as you want with the fruit. You can spend as much as you want in the cafeteria, but it's not actually going to address the people that are genuinely going to go the extra distance to help your customer. They're probably not that motivated by that. So stop trying to mollify people into a sense of appreciation and then get upset when they don't express gratitude. This is really an issue of like, well, push it back and say, well, what are you going to do to change the situation, and how can we help you? And we can definitely show employees how to do that, and show companies how to do that too. Yeah,
absolutely. And the third point here that is happening here is, as we mentioned, the low disengagement that's happening. But it may be that your organization isn't the best, and maybe you know this already. It's not it's something that you're trying to measure on your annual engagement survey. But you know what, by the time those survey results come back, by the time you actually put those changes in place, those people have already left. So, you're asking people to give their feedback once a year, and then they go and leave, and then you're stuck in this vicious cycle where you don't actually get accurate feedback at all.
Yeah, someone from HR comes to you with these reports, and they say, oh, these are the results from the engagement survey. That you're kind of thinking, didn't we do that 9 months ago? And then they say, well, your engagement level amongst women employees has reduced by 25%. And you think like, well, like 4 people have left since then, so I don't really need to care about that. It was probably them. That was the reason why they're gone now. I mean, that actually isn't. And then going in and saying, we'll see this in another year's time, that's ridiculous. Like, no one would accept like an annual assessment of whether something is working or not working, there's no way you'd accept that anywhere else. But for some reason or other with engagement, that's what we do. It just makes no sense at all. It's horrible.
It's baffling. And I heard a really good quote. I don't know who actually said this at an event recently. And it was, if you're a coach, if you're a football coach, if you're a GA coach, you're not going to just tell your team once a year how they're doing. Can you imagine how badly they perform if they only find it once a year? So, I mean, this ongoing feedback and this ongoing listening is really, really valuable. And, when you think about it, when you go home in the evening, you have all these amazing tools. So we have this great quote here from Brian Kropp, the vice president of Gartner, who said, employees want their 9 to 5 to look like their 5 to 9. So it's not actually good enough anymore to just say, right, once a year, we're going to listen to you. It has to be on demand. It has to be real time. It has to be engaging.
What was the first thing you did when you bought your new house?
First thing was definitely get broadband.
And we're all used to that. And we expect, when I want to buy something, I just jump up on my iPhone and I order it. And if I want to check on, the status, I have dogs, you have dogs. If I want to check how the dogs are doing, I can jump in and get video of what's happening. And I think we come to work and everything steps back like 50 years. And nowhere is that more apparent than in HR. Like if you had a challenge, with I don't know, like the plumbing in your house or whatever it is, or the energy, supply in your house, you'd be looking for constant updates of data, and you'd want to be able to engage and interact with that information and start seeing what's going to happen based upon what's happened. And what we see in HR is basically incredibly old data that is based upon information that we can no longer even guarantee is valid. And then we expect the organization to take action based on that. That's just really, at this point, it's actually just patronizing and offensive.
And there's no urgency either. The fact that this is happening, people are going to leave in the next few weeks. The lack of the urgency as well means that people do need to do something about it, but they don't necessarily see the reason behind it.
And they don't have the data to make the business case. So they don't have the real-time information available to allow them to make a compelling business case to actually produce change. So Sarah's back and she's like, I just have to keep on perpetuating this system. And, it's getting worse and worse. She's just lurching from tactical crisis to like blazing fire. And all the time she's been hampered by completely out of date data. So she's not getting listened to by heads of business in the organization. They aren't engaging with her around their own employee engagement issues. And the meaningless data is actually making the whole situation worse because it's just throwing gasoline on the flames. And so Sarah came to work. She signed up to do this because she wanted to make the workplace better. She wanted to deliver great results. She wanted to, drive a higher level of achievement and accomplishment within the enterprise. And what's actually hampering her from doing that is the appallingly bad data that we've got in place.
Absolutely, yeah. And so if you look at, where this is actually hurting your organization, it's hurting your organization throughout the entire employee life cycle. So when you think about it, before an employee even joins your organization, they're in that pre-hire stage. They already have kind of forming ideas of what your organization is about. They're reading Glassdoor reviews like crazy. They're obsessively checking your social media so that they can go into the interview and make some remark about what's going on in your organization. So they've got a lot going on even before they hit onboarding.
And like Sarah's getting hammered again, just going back to her story, because she's getting yelled at because there aren't enough candidates. There's a poor candidate experience, or, the person that came in and interviewed last week said that they waited like 14 days before somebody responded to them when they sent in their CV. And it's like, it's anecdotal information. She has no way of actually measuring that. So there's low closure rates. So, having to interview loads of people and actually not be able to close that many. And then there's no ability to actually go back and get boomerang hires, which are incredibly powerful for you from the perspective of driving an employer brand and really, really help you develop data that is super targeted around what works and what doesn't in the organization.
Yeah, definitely. And then if you even look at your onboarding, Dave, so like when people come into the organization, sometimes it's a bit confusing. It's not employee oriented. They don't maybe have the data to even assess how their onboarding went. They might send a survey and you might receive that survey, you fill it out. But, beyond that, you can't then capture that person's entire experience once they even hit the organization and they're there maybe 6 months.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the big deal too, which is that it was recently just featured in the Harvard Business Review. If you want your employees to be engaged, you need to spend more time and money on their onboarding process. And that's exactly what our platform allows people to do, which is you can actually focus on the pre-hire, focus on the onboarding, make sure it's really, really it feels special. They have a logical place to go for information. It's safe, it's secure, and they know exactly who they're going to be engaging with. And that the content is really tailored to them. So you're not sitting in you're not sitting in a session which has, talking about benefits that have absolutely nothing to do with you. It has to be customized, it has to be tailored.
Yeah, absolutely. And then once they reach that engagement stage, so once they've kind of gone past the 6 month mark, maybe the year mark, you know, they don't necessarily have that voice. They might have to wait. I remember I started in a company and they had just finished their engagement survey. So I had to wait a whole other year to give my feedback at a formal level as to what's happening in the organization. Of course, I was giving feedback to my manager along the way, but you know, there's only so much that a management team can do without certain changes happening at a wider level in the organization.
And we were, you know, I mean, there's so many of our clients that actually talk about, they wait to announce really bad things until the annual employee engagement survey has been completed, which is just a horrible story, because you actually think people fill out the survey with the expectation of something bad happening afterwards. So we've created a really damaging paradigm around what these surveys really mean. And then in addition, we actually had, when we asked it recently at a client in the UK, we asked them what was the primary way for them to give feedback to the managers, and the employee survey actually showed up for over 45% of their workforce population. So these folks are actually waiting for an entire year to actually fill stuff out. So you think about that, it's like, you know, the only way that I can offer feedback is by ticking boxes in a survey. And then I'm going to hoard all of this negativity and all this bad stuff that I want to say until that actually happens, until that survey comes along, and then I'm going to be like, worst score, all the way down the left-hand side of the page. So we're creating this hideous sense of victimization amongst our workforce by actually relying on this data as well, which is just really sickening.
Yeah, and you might think that, you know, okay, that doesn't happen in our organization. We have feedback that goes on throughout the year with managers and so on. But I'd ask you, is that reflected then in your engagement score? Is that actually reflected in, you know, your attrition rates? Is that reflected in your retention rates? Is that reflected in your entire engagement score for the whole workplace? And if it's not, then there's a disconnect. There's something actually going wrong.
Yeah, and this isn't a millennial problem. This isn't a, you know, generational problem. This is your problem. This is something we need to help you fix, which we're really, really well positioned to do. The most important stuff is actually creating a rock solid business case for that change, and that requires really, really powerful data, which we can give you access to very quickly.
Absolutely.
I think the part that's really exciting about this too, that really empowers me in a way, if I'm a manager, I don't want to hear about how my team felt last month, and I sure as hell don't want to know how it compares with how they felt last year. It's probably a different team, right? So if it's a big growing organization, I want to know how they're feeling now, and I want to know how they're, you know, how they're tracking with performance elsewhere in the business, you know, tomorrow. And if I'm a real leader, I'm going to take the action to shift that needle before it actually hits the fan.
Yeah.
So I'm going to anticipate what that is, and I'm going to anticipate it and take action to head it off at the pass. So, you know, we go back to Sarah again, and Sarah, that's what Sarah wants to be doing, right? She doesn't want to be somebody from HR presenting historic standalone engagement data that can't, you know, that doesn't correlate with anything else in the enterprise and doesn't actually give us anything, you know, valuable to be able, you know, from which she can take a leadership position. So we're creating a difficult situation for her.
Yeah, absolutely, Dave. And what I'm going to show you then is our solution. So, you know, we've talked about the challenges, we've talked about what Sarah is going through, but what can we actually do to fix this?
Yeah, and I think we're now going to jump into an example of how that system's actually working. So what we've done here is we are solving this problem. And so what we are, for your new hire community, you know, we have a pre-hire community that allows them to, before they even join the company, they can complete an engagement survey to help them settle in. Through the onboarding process, they can complete an onboarding survey. And we pull lots of other information from other sources too, depending on what's available, on what you can make available to us. Basically what this means is that from the pre-hire, they're actually beginning to experience your community. They're beginning to see that you're customizing the experience directly to them. And then in the onboarding stage, they're actually beginning to, you know, understand the level of focus and attention that you bring to the onboarding process, and that you are going to manage them through that entire process. And it's going to be highly customized and specific to them. So they can give you really valuable and powerful feedback on that. You know, then as they go through the engagement life cycle within the organization, you know, their employees, they can complete stay and pulse surveys throughout the time with your company across multiple different platforms on mobile, you know, via email, via SMS, whatever it is that, you know, that you want to use. And then when they're leaving, they're given the right tools to help them offboard effectively in the event that they do leave. So it's a 100% anonymous exit survey and an invitation to your alumni community. Alumni communities are really powerful. How you deal with people when they are leaving is a massive indicator of how you value the employees as a whole. And I think that's a really powerful thing in terms of the difference between completion rates. And you've got some examples of that, the difference in the completion rates of third party, us doing the surveys versus clients doing them.
Absolutely, yeah, and we'll go into some of those business results, which obviously that's the most important part. Is, you know, it's all very well and good to talk about engagement, talk about surveys, but unless you're seeing business results, then this is not going to mean anything. So what we'll do now is we'll just jump into those results. So, I mean, what are customers seeing? They're seeing that they're getting higher retention rates because of these engaged communities and because of these surveys. They're also getting data-led insights. So we talk a lot about data-driven, you know, data-driven insights that are going to make a difference to your organization. You know, you have that business case now. You can go and say, we need this to happen in our organization. We need, you know, complete overhaul of management training because this is how people are rating their managers. Absolutely. So that's going to enable better decision making ultimately, which is going to lead to better retention. And then your employer brand is going to really jump higher as a result. You know, your employee experience, that's a huge topic at the moment in HR, is what is the employee experience? You know, it's not just about being a person at your desk working. If you're at a desk, it's all about what do you feel when you come into the workplace and are you empathized with? So that's going to go up because you're going to be engaging. It's a two-way conversation. So it's not just going to be the shouting down from on high, or it's not going to be the kind of, oh, I'm really annoyed, I'm going to put this in the survey. It's actually two-way throughout the entire life cycle. And what's going to happen from that is, because people are going to be happier, they're going to actually refer people to your company. So when you work in a really good company, and I know we both have, and we talk about it a lot, you know, we'll reference that company all the time. Oh, when I worked here, they did this and it was really good. And that's really, that's one of the best ways actually to get referrals to your workplace, is just through word of mouth.
Because when your friends see you being happy and see you enjoying your work, they actually say to you like, hey, are you guys hiring? You know, can we, let's have fun with that. And that's a great experience. It's a wonderful endorsement. Exactly.
And if you leave, you know, you might actually be likely to come back. So I worked in a company where there was lots of boomerangs and people that went off, maybe studied, traveled for a year, and then they came back and they were really happy. So that's another thing as well, that your boomerang hiring is going to go up. And then, as I mentioned before, your brand is going to just shoot sky high. And if you look then at the customer results, Dave, so we're just giving you here an example of a client who before Talivest had a really low response rate, and they did do an exit survey, but they still had a low Glassdoor score and a really low employee NPS. And in addition, I mean, the HR team were just spending loads of time going in, sending surveys, sending reminders, trying to drum up interest to actually complete them. So they had a very low return on investment for actually the time that was spent.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then afterwards, we're seeing a massive change. I mean, what we saw here was the response rate shot up through the roof. You know, they improved their Glassdoor score, and this is just within 6 months.
Yeah.
So this is a really short time space. And then they had their employee NPS, which went up 255%. So that was massive from when they started to when they actually measured it again 6 months later.
Incredible. So those soul-sucking vampires are actually beginning to change their minds, because their net promoter score, their, you know, willingness to recommend the company is beginning to shift bit by bit by bit. That's
Absolutely.
amazing.
And then the HR time went down, and that's something that a lot of the HR teams come to us about, is, you know, they're spending so much time doing a lot of this admin work. And, you know, we talk about like AI coming in and taking our jobs. Well, actually there's software out there as well that can help and that can make it a lot easier and reduce a lot of that admin time.
Absolutely. But the less time, better return, you know, better, making it a better place to work. That's really cool.
Totally. Yeah. So if we go into our platform, because I know you want to see the product as well, so we just talk about, you know, what does our platform actually do? Well, it helps you talk to your people. So there's lots of ways that you're going to talk to them, and we've listed some of them there, and our platform combines all of these into one. Then if you're talking about, you know, your listening part, so we actually allow you to listen and talk all within one platform.
Yeah, and that's really important too, in terms of seeing what people do when you actually outline a set of actions that you want a manager to take to address a particular performance area. You know, respect for work-life balance, or, you know, understanding you know, employees with particular challenges or something, and you put a plan in place, and you can see exactly what they're engaging with, and you can see this manager has taken the following action, and then those actions have driven shifts in the survey results, continuous survey results that we're getting from their team. So you can actually see that stuff's happening, and you can see the needle shift. So it's really powerful. I love that about our platform.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is all continuous. So this is real-time feedback. This is going to happen throughout the employee life cycle, as we said, not just once a year. So if we go into our tool now, and Dave will actually walk you through what this is going to look like.
Yeah, so this one here actually is our analytics dashboard, and this is, I think, a really exciting aspect of this. And so this one is just set up purely from a demo perspective. So it's just using, you know, just an example of how it works. So you can, from this side on the left, you can see that these are the different communities that you can identify, and we can break that down into pretty much any number of pieces that we have data around. So in this instance, We can also go in and compare the overall sample with a diverse hire. So this one is for the US Equal Employment Opportunities Commission, and this one allows you to see what the Equal Employment Opportunities Commission categories are, how anyone who matches those categories, how their experience is differing from the overall company experience and where it's differing. So it's not just one number, we're actually able to identify it throughout the entire employee life cycle. So in the pre-hire stage, in the onboarding stage, in the stay period when they're working in the company, potentially for a long period of time, and then when they exit, what are their different motivators in there? This actually matches it against our engagement model, which is built around the key drivers that you see at the bottom. And so it gives you an example of how you're meeting those particular drivers and what areas you need to address. So in this instance, we can see that the mainstream workforce is our overall workforce is actually having one particular set of results, and then your WEOC categories are having different experiences as well, and you can see them down here and the drivers down here also. And then also on the left-hand side, which is probably the most powerful piece from a HR perspective, you actually see specific anonymized results from those different groups on that community. So you're able to go in and see exactly what people are saying, and if you switch over to the word cloud view, you'll actually see specific examples from a word cloud. So in this instance, for example, if you were to do the whole company, you'd see a whole bunch of really positive pieces. And then if you were to do maybe a region, you'd see a bunch of really positive words, and then you'd see a couple of negative words. And then if I'm to break it down to let's say Chuck, if I'm Sarah and I'm trying to get this done, I'm sitting there and I need to get Chuck to listen to me. So what I'm doing is I'm sitting in front of Chuck and I'm saying, here's the whole company, all green, all happy, very positive. Here's the region, mostly green, mostly happy, positive. Here's your team. They're really, really not loving life. And so Chuck, we need you to take action, and this is your problem that you need to fix. It isn't something that I, as a HR business partner, am going to have to accept responsibility for. I'm just here to help you and make it work.
Absolutely. And this is really where the tool empowers you to help your teams and help everyone that you're working with do a better job. Because as you said, Dave, I think that's really important, is a lot of this stuff is seen as like a HR initiative. Yeah. And actually, you know what, it's not always, it doesn't have to be HR initiative. It's just HR is going to have the tools to be able to call out where the areas are and where those key themes are that need to be fixed.
Absolutely. And it's the responsibility of the business to actually own this. And we're just going to give them the tools to allow them to do that effectively. You can also then jump in, exactly. So you jump in here and we can go in and manage the survey piece. So we can actually go in and actually set up, initiate, and analyze all of the survey activity that happens on the platform here as well.
Yeah, and it's really quick. I mean, one thing that we see as well is a big jump from, when our clients go from using SurveyMonkey to us, they are actually just seeing it so quick and easy to send. So you just put in first name, last name, email address, and click on send. And if you want, you can just have a link that you can send on Slack or send on, whatever kind of platform that you have.
Yeah, and it's no apps need to be installed if you do it on a mobile. You can just do it directly through a browser, so there's no security risk. Yeah,
exactly. So what we can do now, Dave, maybe is jump into the engagement side. So this is where we've talked about, all the surveys and how they're going to make a difference. But what about the engagement piece? So we can show what that looks like.
It is such a beautifully familiar community, and it just is completely intuitive and really, everyone actually understands how to engage with this. It's incredible to see it in our client base. We have people setting up their own communities here and so much engagement with this actual platform.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, this is an example of our community, and this is the company, My Company. And what we can do with this community is this can either be your pre-hire, it can be your actual onboarding community, your employee engagement community, or your alumni, which is, of course, really, really valuable in actually getting that data and understanding what jobs your alumni are looking at, and then also what jobs they're referring, because you can refer jobs entirely throughout this platform.
Yeah. And so the other aspect of this one that I think is really great is you can, again, look at all the engagement data, but you can also see here, for example, this is all customized to every individual in the company. So if I go back to Chuck, my manager with the diversity problem, in this instance here, I can see if Chuck is engaged with the making diversity work in your team, and I can actually then mirror the performance behavior against other teams that have gone through the similar types of process. So I can see, when, Elizabeth did this in, New Jersey, and Chuck did this in, in Hull, I was actually able to go in and identify the difference in responses between those and why are they different. So I'm able to actually then further coach them and further enable them to make changes based upon that information. And we can go into every single employee in the company and see what their engagement has been like and what their reactions have been like to content within the system. So you can actually, and you can look at that across the team really, really easily.
Yeah, and there's a really powerful analytics tool behind this that lets you see, who's active, who's engaging. As you said, are the people that you're, trying to help make a difference? Are they doing the activities that are going to make that difference? Are they going to the diversity seminars? Are they actually making changes throughout their team? And so it's a really powerful tool to be able to see all that in one place.
Absolutely. And I think then, are you getting ready to talk about the pop up at the bottom there?
Yeah, sure, exactly. So we talked a lot about real-time feedback, and one thing that we do is when you have one of our communities, you're actually able to implement real-time feedback here on the bottom. So this just comes up as a pop-up, and you're able to create any question you want. So you can actually do your entire employee engagement survey through this. So it's all just pop up. You give your answer, you write whatever question you want. So this one is, how was your commute today? Mine was actually quite nice, so I'm going to go, it was great.
Mine was too. I went to Dublin Castle's courtyard this morning. It was beautiful.
Yeah, it was a lovely day as well. So so that's it. Once you see then someone has actually submitted an answer, you can go into the background and you can actually see the analytics behind that and see everything that's happening there.
And that's, I think, so it's a pop-up question. We can do that around multiple different topics. We can set them up formulaically for you so that they'll actually automatically distribute over a period of time. And so you're actually able to go in and be able to see specifically, in Chuck's team, what's happening and what is happening versus what should be happening and what kind of responses you're getting. So you can take really, really targeted response to address that issue. So for me, if I'm Sarah, I'm actually able to go in the mornings and look at this information and determine who do I need to address, who's not taking the action that needs to happen, and what are the problems here. So we can actually deliver a much more customized experience for both the managers and also for the employees that are reporting to them. And that's just incredibly powerful because it completely switches it out. I think one of the things that is really interesting about this too is that we are, what we're really trying to avoid doing is that sort of survey fatigue piece. And so, but at the same time, Gartner, again, another number from Gartner, expects 59% of organizations to use engagement data from sources other than formal surveys. And that's exactly what we're talking about. So we can integrate with this type of a community, with other systems that you're using, with touch and tell boards that we're all used to seeing at the airport, etc. And we can provide those throughout your organization. We can give you emoji-based surveys on mobile devices. We can do all these things in a really super easy way. I think you couldn't make it any easier.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and all this is mobile optimized. So we're showing it to you on a screen here because we have it ready to go on the screen, but obviously you can do this on your mobile as well. And so Dave, so what do we want people to do next? I mean, we've seen the demo, we've gone through kind of what are those things that people need to look at. We've gone through the engagement community. So, what do we want people to do?
I think what we want to do is we need them to get in touch. So basically just drop us an email and get in touch with us. Very, very soon, we're going to have a tool online that we're really excited about, which is basically allowing you to build a business case. So if you are Sarah and you're on this phone call, or you identify with the challenges that we've spoken about here, get in touch with us because we're going to send out to you an online engagement platform, which will allow you to basically build a financial business case for driving the type of change that you need to see in the enterprise using our platform here. So we can help you with that right now. And so if you get in touch with us, we'll be able to talk to you a little bit more about the challenges that you're having, share some of the amazing results we've seen at customers like GBC, Ladbrokes Coral, CPL, and the insane levels of engagement that we've had with those kind of companies. Pernod Ricard, they just won some incredible awards around their platform too, which is really exciting for us. And so get in touch with us. We'd love to share them with you. I think it's really exciting. We got into this business because we wanted to make the world of work better. And I think that this is something that we assume that you want to do too. And if that's where your heart is, then please, get in touch and we'd love to share our stories with you.
Absolutely, yeah. And thanks very much for joining us today, and check out future webinars. We're going to be doing lots of different ones, people analytics. We've done one already on diversity, which Dave was a fantastic host for. So you can download that if you want to go onto our website to the resources page. There's also loads of case studies, infographics, so a lot more information about our product as well.
Yeah, get in touch. Thanks a million for getting on board. Take care.
Bye.
Thanks, Dave.